Welcome to Whiskey Nightcaps, the channel where we do sip before sleep. And I am the host, Jason Davis. And today we're talking about J. Riddle Peated Bourbon. Stay right there, sucker. All right, so peated bourbon. Not a term that you hear quite often, and for some of you probably does not sound appealing at all. I thought it was interesting. You know, when I walk through the spirit store, I browse. I typically don't go into the store looking for something specific. I browse the aisles for probably about like a half an hour until something like really piques my interest, and that's how I make my purchase. And this was one of those times. Now, J. Riddle comes from 2 James, which is a distillery out of Detroit, Michigan. The bottle is beautiful. It really has like a lot of craft to it. And that probably was part of the reason that I bought it. I got suckered into the bottle. However, another thing is I had never heard of 2 James before, and I thought it was interesting that there was this distillery that was out of Motor City. And I assumed that the whiskey would be sourced, right? Because I had never heard of them, but it actually is distilled and bottled by 2 James Distillery. And from what I understand, a lot of the grains that they use are as local as possible. And so I was like, I support that, you know? And this is 91 proof. So, you know, not something that would necessarily blow your socks off, but not 40% either. And as we know, those little percentages sometimes make a big difference. Now, the mash bill of this bourbon is only 2 grains, which is the corn and barley, no rye whatsoever. And, you know, it was peated. It's peated. So it's supposed to have some of that smoke flavor, which typically is something that you would associate with Scotch and not bourbon or any American whiskey at all. And so I thought that was unique, and unique will always win with me in giving a whiskey a shot, because there's a million different bourbons on the market, and some of it, if we're being honest, at the end of the day, starts to taste the same. I mean, shit, half of it is sourced. They all come from the same distilleries, and that's why they have, you know, similar flavor profiles. That's why this was worthy of giving at least a chance. All right, so let's look at the color on this thing. This whiskey is non-age statement. Don't know how old it is. Has a light hue to it, so I don't assume that it's been aged for that long. Probably, you know, the minimum of 2 years, I would say. Let's go to the nose, see what's on this thing. That's different. You know, putting together the peat with the grains that are used in bourbon gives it a very unique characteristic. It has a musty type of profile to it. Very light hint of smoke. And here's where I'm gonna blow your socks off, right? This is probably something you've never heard someone mention when they're referring to whiskey, but this smells like cucumber water. I don't know if you've ever had cucumber water, but it has that same type of smell. It smells like something you would drink on a hot day to refresh yourself. All right, so how will any of this translate to the palate? Who knows? Let's see. What do we have to lose besides our sanity and our bladders and livers? The mouthfeel is very light, doesn't cling. It's not oily, viscous, very light. And the taste is light as well. You get some of those classic bourbon flavors, but not a really strong, spicy bourbon, probably because it does not have rye in the mash bill. Reminds me almost like a wheated bourbon, like a Larceny. You know, there's a faint hint of spice, which probably just comes from the barrel aging. You know, it tastes like it smells. I'm getting that peat on the back end now. I can smell that coming off my breath. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's definitely different. The finish seems to be a short one, with the exception of the peat. That lingers longer than anything else. The other flavors of the bourbon, pretty much, those are gone. But then there's also like a metallic kind of taste coming through on that finish. Now, I'm not saying this is like, whoa, oh my God, this is the best bourbon I've ever had or the best whiskey I've ever had, but it's not the worst either. And I mean, technically it can be considered a budget whiskey. I mean, this is definitely under $50, which was another thing that caught my eye. I was like, it's only like 30 something bucks, so what am I losing, right? You know, I don't know. I'm so confused and conflicted on this one. It's gonna be up to you. You know, if you see this somewhere, it's gonna be up to you on whether or not you want to give this a shot. Like I said, it's not bad. It's different. You know, sometimes you want to shake things up a bit. I understand that. You know, I made another video. It was my, 5 whiskeys you gotta have or whatever. And one of the subtypes of whiskeys that I talked about was called like a TV whiskey, like something that you just kind of put in the glass, set it and forget it, and you just, sip this while you watch something else, something where the whiskey doesn't require your attention. This is that type of whiskey. Like I said, it's so conflicting because it is so unique in itself, having those peat flavors associated with the bourbon. I'm in the middle on this one. Sorry. We may have to do a follow-up video on this just to see how I feel about it later. I mean, obviously I've already had this bottle. I've consumed a lot of it, but I've had it for a long time. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess the only thing I can say is, like I said, you give it your shot. I don't think it's a waste of money. I can tell you some whiskeys that I have right now that are like garbage, garbolito, basuro, bro. And I haven't done videos on those, even though I'm going to help you guys out and prevent you from wasting your money like I did. But with this one, I mean, go ahead and give it a shot. See what you think. I can still, it's like a different flavor coming off of my breath now. I don't know. You give it a shot. Tell me what you think. Jason Davis, Whiskey Nightcaps. Is there a whiskey that you own or that you've experienced that was really conflicting for you, where you just couldn't put your finger on it? Let us know in the comments below. We'll see you guys again on the next Go Round. Peace.